At the dawn of the early 2000s, Disney was building two empires at the same time. The silly, zany empire ruled over by Kuzco in The Emperor's New Groove, and a more mysterious empire, a more epic empire, the Lost Empire of Atlantis. Directed by Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise, who also directed Beauty and the Beast and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Atlantis the Lost Empire was one of Disney's more experimental movies. Having already directed two musicals, the pair decided on a different approach for their next project, drawing inspiration from some of the more adventurous live-action Disney movies of the past. They came up with a general story idea about a team of explorers venturing deep into the Earth, and eventually settled on Atlantis as the main subject, based on the fictional concept started by that trolly Greek philosopher Plato. They also decided that this would be a more mature Disney movie without any songs, even coining the infamous motto, fewer songs, more explosions. You can already see why this might appeal to a boy like me. But despite such fascinating intentions, the experiment didn't quite pay off. In the UK, it opened way down at number 13 during its preview weekend in October 2001, and only moved up to number 4 for its wider release. What insidious evil proved to be this movie's undoing? Well, American Pie 2, America's Sweethearts, and Jeepers Creepers. It was a different time. Ultimately, Atlantis grossed £6 million in the UK. Not too bad, but a lot less than The Emperor's New Groove. However, unlike that movie, this is one that I actually did grow up with. I never saw it on the big screen, but when I was about 6, it was shown on the Disney Channel, and for some reason, my dad made me watch it with him. I'm not sure why. I mean, he was going through a Samurai Jack phase at the time, I don't know what to tell you. But when I saw this for the first time, I thought it was great. I mean, action, adventure, secret worlds, Italian explosives expert. These were all things that I loved as a child, so how could I not like it? I don't care about your stupid Disney songs, just give me more explodey boom boom stuff. But the question now is, does it still hold up? Well, there's only one way to find out, so let's dive into the VHS tape and set sail for Atlantis. Oh wow, the first trailer is for Lilo and Stitch, so I might as well staple my mouth shut since I have to review this next time. One thing I will say is that this trailer is weirdly long. It runs for almost 5 minutes. If you're gonna make the trailer that long, you might as well show me the whole movie.
Her name is Lilo.
That's my puppy.
His name is Stitch.
Until next time, guys.
Coming only to theaters.
Monsters Inc? Wow, I've only seen that trailer a trillion times. Okay, now available. What's this? Well, it's an advert for Disneyland Paris, featuring Walt Disney Studios, which I'm guessing was a new thing at the time. It's pretty epic.
Walt Disney Studios.
But what was that now available thing all about? What, you mean I can just walk into the shop and buy Disneyland off the shelf? That's pretty generous. Movie time, and in case you couldn't tell this is a more mature Disney movie, the logo is all dark and metallic. I approve. We also start with a piece of writing by Plato, probably making this the only Disney movie to open with a quote from Greek philosophy, well, apart from the Aristocats of course. So we start in the epic city of Atlantis, where things are going a bit pear-shaped. The entire city seems to be under attack from some kind of weird energy force, and as the people seek shelter, two parents and their daughter get caught up in the chaos. But then the mother suddenly gets all misty-eyed and floats towards the light, because parents can never seem to last more than 2 minutes in a Disney movie. The mother turns into a glowing orb of death, and the entire city sinks into the ocean like a shop on a Black Friday sale. This is quite the dramatic opening. I mean, it's a bit of a departure from a llama boy sitting around in the rain, isn't it? We fast forward a few millennia to the basement of a museum, where we meet our hero, Milo Thatch, played by the great Michael J. Fox. He's an awkward geek, so basically a human version of Stuart Little.
Why Atlantis? It's just a myth, isn't it? Pure fantasy. Well, that is where you'd be wrong.
Milo works a lonely job servicing the boiler for the museum, but he's also an ancient language expert who dreams of being an explorer just like his grandfather, and he's been working for years to track down the secret location of Atlantis.
Key to Atlantis lies not in Ireland, but in Iceland.
But the stuffed shirts at the museum don't believe Milo and refuse to finance his expedition plans. Maybe this is a subtle commentary on all the executive shenanigans going on with the last movie.
You have a lot of potential, Milo. Don't throw it all away chasing fairy tales.
But I can prove Atlantis exists.
It seems like Milo is stuck, but when he arrives home, he's met by a very seductive lady called Helga.
How did you get in here?
I came down the chimney. Ho, ho, ho.
Hello, Goodness!
Yeah, this woman is pretty risque for a Disney movie. Careful on that U rating now. Helga works for a rich old man named Mr. Whitmore, who invites Milo to his dark, mysterious mansion in the middle of the night.
He doesn't bite often.
But he turns out to be a crazy old guy practicing some yoga. Oh god, I didn't mean that risque, please!
Did you really know my grandfather?
Oh yeah, middle Thaddeus back in Georgetown.
Whitmore reveals that he once knew Milo's grandfather and has been working to continue his legacy, even hiring a crew to find the lost journal that will lead them to Atlantis.
It's the Shepherd's Journal.
Now, this journal was actually supposed to be foreshadowed in a deleted opening to the movie, where a group of Vikings were using it to find Atlantis, only for them all to get killed by a giant sea beast, implying that the journal had been passed down through the ages. The scene didn't make the final movie, although it did end up being included as an intro to the video game Trial by Fire for the PC. Milo looks a bit peeved there, doesn't he? Now that he has the journal, Whitmore is planning a big expedition to Atlantis, and wants Milo to come along so he can translate the journal and redeem his grandfather's memory.
Atlantis is waiting. What do you say?
I'm your man, Mr. Whitmore.
So off we go to Atlantis, and Whitmore has built a huge submarine to get them there. The expedition is led by Commander Rourke, played by James Garner.
Pleasure to meet the grandson of old Thaddeus. See, you got that journal. Nice pictures.
Seems like a charming, reasonable sort of guy.
Bye, Mr. Whitmore.
Make us proud, boy.
Milo sets off on the submarine, and wow, this movie is gorgeous. Even after all this time, it still looks great. Traditional animation only seemed to get better in this era, and it's a shame its days were numbered in the theatrical space. Even the style of the movie is very distinct. Everything has this 1900s steampunk vibe going for it. It's anachronistic in places, but it just seems to fit. On the sub, Milo gets a chance to meet with the rest of the crew, and there are some pretty fun characters here. There's Sweet, the doctor, who looks like he could bench press me into a pretzel.
Here, I'm gonna need you to fill these up.
With what?
Vinny, an Italian demolition expert, who's probably the funniest character in the movie. Every dry quote that comes out of his mouth is gold.
The Leviathan, the creature guarding the entrance to Atlantis.
With something like that, I would have white wine, I think.
Audrey, the Hispanic mechanic, who will be our resident tomboy for this movie.
Jeez, I used to take lunch money from guys like this.
And yeah, it's unlikely a girl would have a job like this in the early 1900s, but who cares? She's cool. There's also some other minor characters, like Mrs. Packard, the communications expert, who just blatantly smokes through the whole movie.
So I says to him, what's wrong with my meatloaf? And he says to me,
Yeah, Disney kids, smoke up. And Cookie, the, well, cook, played by Jim Varney in his final movie role before his death, with the film being dedicated in his memory.
I got you 4 basic food groups: beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard.
Gone too soon. And finally there's Mole, the digging expert, who's basically just your big quirky comic relief character. All Disney movies need to have one. I think it's in the Bible somewhere.
You must leave at once! Ow, 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 ow!
Since Milo is the only one who can decipher the Atlantean language, he helps the crew to navigate, but things take a downward spiral when they encounter a giant sea monster called the Leviathan. It's a very friendly creature. Yeah, this thing is pretty cool. I actually had the Happy Meal toy when I was a kid. I think I had the submarine as well. Hours of amusement.
How much time do we have?
20 minutes if the bulkhead holds. You better make that fly.
Yeah, they might think this is a tough situation, but I remember the boss fight in the video game being way more stressful than this. And whenever I finally get around to reviewing that game, just click the link right here. Since the monster has damaged the sub, the entire crew have to abandon ship, fleeing in the escape pods. They can't even fight the thing, and people actually die. Look at how many ships this thing is blowing up. They even have to mourn everyone when they eventually make it to safety.
We started this expedition with 200 of the finest men and women I've ever known. We're all that's left.
It's rare that you see a Disney movie with such a high body count, and I like that the film takes itself more seriously here.
Looks like all our chances for survival rest with you, Mr. Thatch. You and that little book.
The crew continue on their journey and have to navigate a series of obstacles and creepy crawlies in their search for the lost empire. This is a good opportunity for the crew to bond with each other over a few campfires, and we learn that they're all in it for the most deep, meaningful reason.
Money.
money,
Money.
money.
I'm gonna say
Alright, we do get a bit of backstory. Milo talks a bit about his grandfather.
My parents died when I was a little kid, and he took me in.
Audrey's sister was a champion boxer,
She's 24-0 with a shot at the title next month.
and Vinny worked in a flower shop.
and everybody, they come. Where is it? When is it? Does it match my dress? It's a nightmare.
I'm sure that's how all demolition experts got their start. But in the middle of the night, the crew get attacked by a gang of literal fireflies that burn their camp to the ground. Fortunately, it's accompanied by a very fitting piece on the soundtrack.
10 million fireflies. I'm weird
The crew end up trapped in the base of a dormant volcano, while Milo gets injured and separated from the rest of the crew. Ah! It's Uka Uka! But it turns out to be a mystery woman who looks suspiciously familiar, and she heals Milo's wound with some kind of mystical power. I mean, who does she think she is? Katara? Where are you going? The woman makes a hasty escape, and Milo meets back up with the crew, where they finally discover the lost city of Atlantis. It's so pretty, it makes my eyes bleed. I also have to bring up the fantastic soundtrack here. The music was done by James Newton Howard, and if you don't know who that is, do yourself a favor and pick up one of his soundtracks, because you're in for a treat. Atlantis is one of his best. The crew bump into that girl again, who speaks in a strange and foreign language.
Luego nos pridos es esanen.
Ida sum amice viator.
This is linguam Romae.
And this isn't gibberish here. They actually hired a linguist named Mark Okran to develop a full Atlantean language for the film, so if you have enough time on your hands, you could actually learn how to speak and write it. It's very impressive, and way beyond my scope. I mean, I don't even know how to speak English.
Welcome to the city of Atlantis.
But since Milo speaks the same lingo, they work out how to talk in English, and we learn that this is Princess Kida, voiced by Cree Summer. Whatever happened to Cree Summer anyway? She only voiced like every girl in the 90s and the early 2000s. She was one of the greats.
1,000 years ago, the streets were lit, and our people did not have to scavenge for food at the edge of a crumbling city.
Now, Kida is also easily the best Disney princess, because she's the only one who'll get her hands dirty and sock you right in the face. But whenever Disney goes showing off all their princesses, they always leave her out. What gives? She's a princess. Put her in the lineup. I feel this kind of imagery belongs right at home next to Sleeping Beauty.
I like her.
Well, even if Disney doesn't care about her, she's still a great character, and you can tell it took a long time to give her the right look, especially when you consider her original design looked like this. A female Randall from Monsters, Inc. Kida shows the crew around the city and introduces them to her father, the king, played by Leonard Nimoy, who thankfully gets a bit more to do here than he did in The Page Master.
I know what you seek, and you will not find it here.
But the king doesn't appreciate having these new arrivals around and orders them to leave, but Commander Rourke convinces him to let them stay the night.
That would give us time to rest, resupply.
Very well. One night.
What a polite guy. While the crew enjoy the delights of the city, Kida takes Milo aside and asks him for help with translating some ancient ruins, since while she speaks Atlantean, she can't actually read it, and wants to know more about what happened to her mother as a child.
Bright light, like a star. My father said it called my mother to it. I never saw her again.
I'm sorry.
By translating the ruins underwater, they learn that the light that took her mother was some kind of living power crystal that keeps the city and its people alive, and that's why all the citizens wear crystals around their necks. Whew, that's a lot of lore for a Disney movie, isn't it? Personally, I just thought all the crystal stuff was a tribute to Crash Bandicoot.
The bright light you remember did the same thing.
But when Milo and Kida return to the surface, they get ambushed by Rourke, and it turns out he's been an evil mercenary this whole entire time.
That I would have told you sooner, but it was strictly on a need-to-know basis.
Say it ain't so! Even the whole crew are in on his plan, and yeah, this is probably the only Disney movie where the comic relief character is holding a shotgun.
That crystal is the only thing keeping these people alive. You take that away and they'll die.
Helga, what do you think?
Knowing that, I'd double the price.
I was thinking triple.
That said, I'm not too sure how I feel about this guy as the villain. I mean, he's kind of cool, but it feels like he turns from a collected commander into a psycho nutcase a bit too quickly. It's quite shallow.
You're an idealist, just like your grandfather. Do yourself a favor, Milo. Don't be like him.
I'd like to know where he stands in your Disney villain ranks. Good bad guy or bad bad guy? Comment section, do your thing. While Kida does the sensible thing and tries beating the guards to a pulp, you go girl. She gets held at gunpoint, and Rourke forces Milo to help him find the power crystal, so he can sell it for a truckload of cash.
It's big, it's shiny, it's gonna make us all rich.
Wow, just imagine all the jawbreakers he can buy with that. Rourke and the crew bust their way into the king's quarters, and he demands to know where the crystal is. But the king isn't talking, and Rourke beats him into submission in front of his daughter.
This was not a part of the plan.
Plans changed, Doc.
Is it too late to have Kronk come in and say something stupid? Rourke works out the secret entrance to the crystal chamber, and they take a trip into the underground depths, where they bicker some more over how to steal the crystal.
Well, do better.
Well, I know. Why don't you translate, and I'll wave the gun around.
But history repeats itself, and just like her mother, Kida is drawn towards the crystal in a pretty incredible sequence. She walks on water, levitates into the air, and the animation is just amazing here. So Kida gets turned into one of those chintzy glass ornaments your grandmother probably had on her mantelpiece, allowing Rourke to box her up so he can sell her on eBay. Milo rips into the crew for helping Rourke with his scheme, and it's a pretty effective moment.
You can start a whole chain of flower shops. I'm sure your family's gonna be very proud.
But that's what it's all about, right? Money.
Milo's touching words hit a nerve with Rourke, and fortunately, he sees the error of his ways. Hey, that's blood. You don't see that every day in a Disney movie. The only other example off the top of my head is when the Beast gets stabbed and blood is pouring out of him. I can't believe they got away with that. That's messed up. But seeing Milo so low causes the crew to rethink their life choices, and they go back to side with Milo, while Rourke leaves them behind and blows up the only way out.
Okay, now you can go.
Milo returns to the dying king, who reveals that he once tried to use the crystal's power for his own greedy needs, only for it to grow out of control and sink the entire city.
That's why you hid it beneath the city, to keep history from repeating itself.
And to prevent Kida from suffering the same fate.
Apparently, every so often, the crystal will choose a host to protect itself in, and that's why it possessed Kida, even though doing that actually made it way easier for Rourke to put her in a box like a Christmas present. Yeah, bit of a plot hole there.
The love of my daughter is all I have left.
The king tells Milo it's up to him to save Kida, and just before he dies, he gives him his Atlantis crystal, which is one heck of a gift. Did you know they actually sold those things and I never even knew about it? I'm not even a jewelry person, and I would have killed to rock one of those around my neck. Childhood can be so cruel.
I'm going after Rourke.
Milo, that's crazy.
I didn't say it was the smart thing.
Now it's up to Milo to save the day, and he teams up with the crew and the people of Atlantis to go after Rourke using their mystical vehicles, which are fish bikes for some reason.
We're gonna save Atlantis, or we're gonna die trying. Now let's do it!
Rourke tries to make his escape through the volcano shaft in a giant balloon, but Milo and the gang ambush him, leading to the kind of crazy explosive battle that you'd imagine playing with toys as a kid. You get the idea. Milo jumps onto the balloon, and Rourke decides it's time to lighten the load.
Ladies first.
Ooh, she's dead.
Nothing personal.
Wow, this movie has no mercy. It feels like anyone can die in this one. Milo attacks Rourke, and they get into a very one-sided fistfight.
You're a bigger pain in the neck than I would have ever thought possible.
But hell hath no fury like a Helga scorned, and she blows up the balloon just before she dies.
Nothing personal.
This is where Rourke kind of loses it. He just goes full axe murderer and tries to cut Milo's head off.
I'm just getting warmed up.
But Milo slashes him with the crystal shard, and we get one of the strangest ever deaths for a Disney bad guy. Rourke turns into a giant crystal monster, only to get caught in the propellers and shatter into a million pieces. That's quite unique, but the balloon crashing sets off the volcano, and Milo has to make a quick escape, riding on the box with Kida trapped inside. They make it back to the city, and everything is just eye candy from this point. The whole city gets covered in symbols, masks are lifting into the air, they get a visit from the family of the Iron Giant, and there's nothing I can do to explain any of this. It just looks cool. The city is protected by a giant force field, and once the volcano settles, Kida is finally released from her possessed state. Atlantis is safe, and Milo gets the girl. What a lucky.
We're really gonna miss you, Milo.
And I'm gonna think of you guys every single day, Monday to Friday.
Milo bids the crew farewell with a boatload of treasure and leaves a crystal for Mr. Whitmore as proof that he was right. So how else do you end a movie like this, with even more searing eye candy? The movie's so beautiful, it burns. So that was Atlantis the Lost Empire, and on the whole, I'd say this is a pretty solid adventure story. Maybe it's just because I like me a good treasure hunt, but I don't really see why people were so down on this when it first came out. It's a fun movie with a lot of distinct personalities, and an amazing visual style. Seriously, some of this stuff puts today's animation to shame. The soundtrack is fantastic, the action is great, and I appreciate the attempt to tell a more mature story. It's not edgy or anything like that, but it does take itself a bit more seriously, although not to any gratuitous extent. I mean, it still has the lowest rating over here, so I never had a problem with it as a kid. In fact, whenever I'd see movies with a bit more of a mature aspect back then, I always had more respect for them, and they would stick out in my memory. Maybe that was why I was always more drawn to action-packed adventure movies like this, rather than, well, more on that next time. Oh boy, they're gonna kill me. So why didn't Atlantis prove to be a big hit with audiences? Well, I can't say. Maybe the plot was a bit too complex? I mean, keeping track of all the lore and language in this film is a pretty tough task, and there are a few plot holes here or there. It's not the easiest Disney movie to wrap your head around at first glance. Or maybe it just wasn't marketed well enough. Like, look at the posters. Everything's so dark, you can barely tell who the characters are. Is that Milo? Vinny? Who is this? Why are they drawn that way? What's going on here? Is that Mole down there? It didn't really present itself or its characters in a clear way like, say, The Emperor's New Groove, where everything was Cusco, Cusco, Cusco. Ultimately, it ended up becoming a more obscure Disney movie, even though I grew up with it like anything else. In fact, I liked it so much, I actually asked my parents to get me the movie for my 7th birthday, and what did they give me instead? This. Atlantis 2 Milo's Return. Yeah, they made a direct-to-video sequel, which was actually 3 episodes from a cancelled TV series called Team Atlantis, all mashed together into one sloppy package. You know, the one with the weird tentacle monster thing, and yeah, we don't talk about that. So, in the end, your enjoyment of Atlantis really depends on whether you're up for movies like this. If you only like your classic Disney musicals, then this isn't one for you, but if you love action-packed adventures with some thought-provoking themes, then Atlantis is the place for you. It might be a lost gem, but all you have to do is find it. But now it's time to leave the Lost Empire behind and return back to the surface to make some waves with Lilo and Stitch.
Atlantis is waiting.